everyone. Welcome to A Girl in Love with Tech podcast. My name is Rachel Rabo. I'm a Microsoft MVP, a Power Platform, and a Dynamics 365 CRM developer. And we have our special guest for today, which is Karika. And I'm currently on a series right now on AI adoption, implementation, and everything about AI. And our special guest, Karika. So, hi.
Hi, Rachel.
Yes, thank you so much for accepting my invite and also for the opportunity to have you here today to talk about AI adoption, to talk about a lot about AI and also to talk about Copilot Studio and AI Builder. Yes.
Perfect.
So if you can go ahead and introduce yourself so that we can know more about you.
Sure. So my name is Karika Botha. I am an MVP in Power Apps and Power Automate. I am from South Africa. And then I work for a company called iSolve Business Solutions, which is also a subsidiary of IQ Business. And I work there as a software developer consultant. And then on a personal note, I absolutely love talking about the goodness of God. I enjoy a good K-drama, plus all the Studio Ghibli animations, and I will forever be a Disney fan.
Yeah, me too. I love Disney. Yeah, I love Disney. Yeah, thank you so much. And everyone, if this is the first time you are joining this series, the previous podcast episode was on Is Your AI Data Ready? And I spoke with Miriam, where we talked about how you can make sure your data is ready, how you can make sure your team and your organization is ready to adopt AI into your organization. And today, we are continuing our series, and it's going to be awesome.
I agree.
Yes, and this podcast is live. It's streamed live on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask your questions, and also let us know where you are joining us from. It's going to help a lot. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so the first question I have for you is, I think the first question should be, the people are so scared about AI right now. Yeah, like, is AI going to take my job? Is AI going to take my job? What do you think about that? Like, people are so scared with the advancement of AI and how it is trending all over. So what do you think?
Yeah. 100%. And we get that question a lot. I recently attended the AI tour Johannesburg, and I was part of the community booth at the tour. And I had a lot of interesting conversations around AI. And one conversation in particular that came up is, what are we doing about AI taking people's jobs?
Yeah.
And obviously, as you know, in South Africa, unemployment is already a major issue. And there's a concern that AI could just make it worse for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And but I have a very positive and optimistic view on it. I actually feel that AI is helping us improve. And but I do say that because I am in tech myself. So being in tech, we have this advantage, right? Because we have been taught already to stay up to date with the latest technology. So we know about upskilling ourselves. We know where to go to upskill ourselves. And I feel that's probably the biggest lack, especially because what came up in the conversation is, people that are really concerned are people like your drivers, people who are waitresses. Those are the people that's really concerned about their jobs, because what else do they have to do? Yeah. And my response to that was, being at the community booth, is that's what communities are about, right? Yeah, if you are in an area and you see that there isn't a tech community in your space, go ahead and create that community, right? Start inviting those people. Start telling them and teaching them how to upskill themselves and how to use AI to their benefit. And therefore, if their job does get replaced by, let's say, an atomic car or a robotic waiter, they at least have the skill.
I think when it comes to cars, they have the cars now that can drive itself. Yeah, so.
Exactly. And that's where I feel, as people, and I understand, I mean, I get it, even for our older generation who maybe feel like they too all to learn tech now at their age. The thing is, there are platforms available that is not so complex to use. As you know, also being an MVP for the Power Platform, you know, we've got low code, no code tools that allows you to not necessarily be that advanced in tech to be able to use AI to your benefit. So like I said, I've got a very optimistic view about it. I do believe AI is an enabler instead of a disabler. But I do understand the concern, because the truth of the matter is there are some jobs which are being replaced by AI, but at the same time, there's so many more jobs being created because of AI.
Because of AI. I think the latest one is a prompt engineer.
Exactly. So if you know how to write a proper prompt, you're probably above quite a few people already.
Yes, and you can get a job with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, AI is amazing, to be sincere. It makes your job a lot easier. It makes you productive. Like with the Microsoft technology, Microsoft currently has AI Copilot in many of their applications. So if like for Dynamics 365 right now, if you have like your Copilot can give you details about an information that it's enough to fill a full page, just give you the summary of it. You also have your Microsoft Outlook where you can just draft an email. You can make things easier for yourself in different scenarios. So it's awesome. And it's not just based on tech wise. Like maybe you're going for a vacation. Last year when I was going to Estonia, I asked Copilot like, what places can I visit in Estonia? Or even when I went to Hamburg, I asked questions like, what places can I visit in Germany? Can you give me a plan of how my trip is going to be like? So it's awesome. Yeah.
It is. And I really believe, like with AI, it's just, I think we need to start thinking a bit more creative about how we can use AI to help us, right? To enable us more, instead of just taking our jobs. But it does have, I mean, it does take some input from me as a person as well. I need to want to upskill.
Yeah, sure. It takes a lot of effort. Yeah, you just have to keep up to the trend. And another question I have is like, when we talk about AI, everything that has an advantage also has a disadvantage. That is true. So what are the concerns that we need to have about AI? Like Microsoft, they call it responsible AI. What are ethical concerns we need to have about AI right now in the world?
100%. So obviously, locally, the biggest concern we have at the moment is the bias that comes in with AI. That's one of the ethical concerns, because obviously AI being a global tool, at the moment it caters for, I mean, the dominant language is obviously English. So we're very busy. I know a lot of tech companies are busy trying to adapt AI and getting rid of that bias with regards to language, race. You know, those are things that we can't just shove under a carpet because they do exist. And also on a global scale, the ethical concerns around AI, besides just bias, is also the privacy and accountability. Also, one of the things that came up during the discussions at AI Tour, a gentleman and I were having a discussion, and he asked this question, right? If we become so attached to using AI, because he specifically mentioned that us in tech, we see it from a developer perspective, so we don't really get emotionally attached. But a lot of users, when talking to the AI, it almost feels like a friend or a companion, right? So they've got this emotional attachment to AI sometimes. And his concern was, who is going to be held responsible when things go wrong with AI? So I told him that's a very good question. And I know from a Microsoft standpoint, that's why all your AI models always say, it comes with a disclaimer that AI can be wrong. I think most of the tools always mention it, like don't rely solely on AI because it can be wrong. It's there to help, but it isn't there to replace. So you definitely still need some human input. But I think those are the main ethical concerns from an AI standpoint.
Yes, very, very true. Like, I think I wrote a blog post recently on responsible AI. I was preparing for the AI engineer associate certification, And I was reading the learning parts where Microsoft was talking about responsible AI. So AI, a lot of, apart from even our personal perspective of being careful of how we use AI, we also talk about the organization level, like adoption. You have to put so many things in place when you are bringing AI into your organization. And also those companies who are also producing or creating these products, this AI chats, AI enability. Yeah. So yeah, it's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yes. And the next question I have to ask you is that with AI right now, like AI, AI is awesome. It's something that you don't have to have a role in. You don't have to be an AI engineer. You don't have to be an AI consultant. You don't have to have a role in AI to use AI. So you can easily just bring it into your job and make the tasks you have much easier. So how can people upskill with AI? Like what skills should professionals start learning in order to incorporate AI into their roles?
That's a great question, and thank you for asking that, Rachel.
Yeah,
You mentioned prompt engineering earlier.
yeah,
That is
yeah,
definitely at the top of the list. So
yeah,
I know Microsoft has actually a website, a Copilot website that helps you enhance or improve your prompt engineering by giving you
yes,
some example prompts. And
yeah,
so I would say prompt engineering is at the top of that, because the moment you know how to ask AI to bring a certain result, the better your result will be, right?
yeah,
And
yes,
another thing that I would say people should upskill on is obviously their data literacy. So if
yes,
you understand how data is collected, because obviously we know what makes up an AI model is the data that is being fed. So
yes,
if people can upskill on, if they understand how data works, then they'll also have a good foot in the setting of getting on their journey of AI, building their own models, because then they understand the data element of it.
yes,
Another thing is critical thinking,
yes,
because as much as we know AI can provide answers, you need to understand the content that you are asking it. So if
yeah,
I were to ask it anything scientific at this stage, I would literally just take what AI is saying and not really have the input to validate that. So I
yeah,
would say it's understanding your field as well. We've also seen this with a lot of students. They get very excited about AI and they think like, I know people feel using AI is cheating. I've got a very different view on that.
yeah,
But you have to at least know what about the topic that you're asking AI to help you with. So for instance,
yeah,
once again,
sure,
with developing, I mean, I can ask AI to help me develop, but if I don't understand the code, I'm not going to really be able to debug it because I don't understand
yes,
why it's going wrong. So,
yeah.
so that's why critical thinking is still very important. You need to understand your topic before you understand the response from AI, and also be able to say whether AI is correct or not.
Yeah, and I think there's one thing too that's trended on Twitter, which is X now. And
Mm-hmm.
people are saying that they would not allow their junior developers in the company to use AI chats like ChatGPT
Mm-hmm.
Copilot to code, or itself GitHub Copilot to code, that they want them to actually learn to understand the programming languages that they are using. But
Mm-hmm.
apart from them understanding, it's very important for them to have the fundamental, the basics about that particular tool. But there's one thing I love so much, especially GitHub Copilot, because I use GitHub Copilot. When
Mm-hmm.
you are using it and you understand that particular coding language, you can easily just ask questions. You can be like, okay, when you are using GitHub now, you have your Git. You can be, what Git code, what Git can I use to push this to GitHub? There are so many things you can do. Even as a learner, you can ask GitHub Copilot, or you can ask Copilot a question like, I'm a beginner. You can use your prompts, right? That,
Yes.
okay, as a beginner in this particular technology, can you give me ideas of how I can learn or how I can upskill? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Because that's what it's meant to do, right? It's meant to help and
Yeah.
assist. So
Yeah.
I understand why companies don't want their juniors using Copilot for GitHub, or just any maybe ChatGPT for developing things if they've got a deliverable for client. But I do believe they should make it part of their learning journey, because
Yes.
the better they learn to prompt, the better they're going to be at it by the time they go from junior to intermediate or even to senior.
Yeah. And it's amazing. And I think the next question we have, we're going to the other side of this topic. We're talking about Copilot Studio and AI Builder, which Karika loves a lot.
I do.
So we are going to the other side of this topic. So I'm going to ask you, especially for those who maybe this is the first time they're hearing about AI Builder, and also maybe this is the first time they're hearing about Copilot Studio. So what are they and how do they work?
100%. So to start off with, thank you so much. So to start off with, AI Builder and Copilot Studio is part of what we call the Power Platform, right? And the Power Platform is a set of Microsoft tools. It's a whole platform that consists of quite a few elements, where we've got Power Apps, we've got Power Automate, we've got Power BI. And I think most people are familiar with Power BI because it's been in the industry for quite a while. But then part of that suite, we've also got Copilot Studio, which actually used to be Power Virtual Agents. So when it was just chatbots, but it has grown to be something so much more. And AI Builder is actually a little bit of an add-on that you can use within your Power Apps as well as within Power Automate. So what they are also is they are low-code, no-code tools, right? And what that means is that you don't necessarily have to have the deep technical skills like a custom dev developer or a pro dev developer. It means someone in HR or someone in finance are able to use these tools. They don't necessarily have to sit and wait for IT anymore to come and solve those problems for them, because they can build these models and use these tools by themselves.
And it's amazing, like being the area it covers, especially for non-technical users, for people who are just in roles like an HR. HR is not a technical person, so you can definitely use low-code, no-code tools.
Exactly, to also improve their daily tasks, you know. So I'm sure in the HR silo or in the finance silo, they've got mundane tasks, things where they dread doing it, but they have to do it because it needs to be done. But having these low-code, no-code tools at their disposal, they can also free up some more of their time to focus on the things that matters.
And I think you have answered my next question, which is good. My next question is, how does this AI Builder and Copilot Studio help AI development for non-technical users?
100%. So traditionally, AI required a lot of coding and data expertise, but these tools specifically makes AI accessible to your business analysts, your HR division, your citizen developers. We consider those who are in, because I mean, if you look at the tech space right now, and I keep on saying that in all my talks as well, is tech is no longer just for your IT department. Every single person uses tech on the daily, you know, irrespective of their career. You know, even our drivers and our waitresses, they're using tech. And having these low-code, no-code tools makes it accessible, makes the AI suite accessible to them too. So they can build their own models. You know, things like invoice processing become so much easier because you get to, you know, automate some of those tasks, which is sometimes mundane. And so an example is, for instance, a small business in Johannesburg doesn't necessarily need to hire a data scientist anymore to get their complex processes automated. They can use these low-code, no-code tools, and anyone can build it within that small business.
Yes, sure. And I think there's another example, especially for AI builders. You can just have it where you can scan a document and it will pick up the required text you need in that document, which is absolutely amazing.
Exactly. I've actually built an example once as a demo, is where you know how sometimes you want to claim back from your company you went to travel for business. Instead of having to keep all those slips while you are traveling, you can immediately take a photo of that slip, and it will scan, and it will, you know, with the text, it can take the text from the photo, and it can kick off a workflow in the back end, right? And start processing the things. So it's really, really awesome what you can do with AI Builder. That's just one simple example, but there's so much more that you can do with it.
Yeah, there is a lot. And the next question I have is that what is the real world scenarios of where Copilot Studio and AI Builder has been used? Yeah.
Perfect. So that was one real world
Yes.
example. It's
Yes.
I called it an expense claim
Yes.
system that I've built. But
Yes.
other places that it's being used and that I've seen it used at is also as an, for instance, an HR chatbot. You know how
Okay.
people can frequently ask about policies and what's the
Yeah.
leave policy of a company, and they have these
Yes.
back and forth emails with HR where, and sometimes it's a repetitive thing. So you can actually build an
Yeah.
HR chatbot where people can rather have that interaction with the bot. It goes and fetches the information, and HR
Yeah.
can still continue doing their work instead of having to answer so many emails with all the same
Yes.
questions.
Yeah.
And another cool thing that I've seen, because it's such an important topic, and I've seen that become more and more important over the years, is using this AI builder and AI models, the low-code tools, for mental wellness bots,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
For assisting people with making sure that they are staying on track, especially people who suffer from mental health
Yeah.
issues. These bots have proven to really be helpful and assist them, and also put them in contact with services where
Yeah.
they can maybe chat to someone or reach out to a platform.
Yes. And
Mm.
I'm just looking at your background. I love your background.
Oh, thank you so much.
Women's Forum. Yeah. And if you can just give us, do you have a little story about the Women's Forum?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, I do. So when we, as iSolve Business, became a subsidiary of IQ Business,
Yeah.
I learned that IQ Business has this forum. They've got many other forums as well, which you can join the
Yes.
moment you start working for the company. But the Women's
Yeah.
Forum obviously stood out for me, and the
Yeah.
Women's Forum is there to assist fellow females in tech,
Yeah.
right? And not just
Yeah.
in tech, in any platform, to
Yeah.
help them get their voice, and to be a voice for each other in the rooms that
Yeah.
we are not in.
Yes.
So what I've learned from the Women's Forum, I've been on such a journey with the Women's Forum, and I'm still on that journey. And
Yeah.
so what we get to learn from the Women's Forum is, obviously, we talk about the things that are normally taboo, things that
Okay.
people find difficult to talk about, because we
Yeah.
should have those hard conversations, right? Things like
Yes.
equal pay, um,
Yeah.
and the gender gap. So those
Yes.
things are things that come up, and we actually also challenge the seniors or the top
Yeah.
level in the company regularly to go, do you think this is fair? Do you think this is equal? So
Yeah.
through the Women's Forum, we also have a mentorship
Okay.
program where we get to mentor and be mentored by fellow women or
Yeah.
men who decide to be our allies. So
Yes.
it's a very, very exciting journey being part
Yeah.
of the Women's Forum.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm going away from the topic, but I think the first time I heard about an ally was when I went to a conference in, I think that was in 2023, ending of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And Donna was there, and a few persons was also there. They were talking about mentorship, about women in tech, and then they talked about ally. I think that was the first time I got to hear about allies, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing it very well,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, it's amazing.
And
Yeah,
that's why it's so important, because even for
yeah,
me, there were certain things or terminologies that I didn't even know about. But
yeah,
becoming part of the Women's Forum, I got educated. And, awareness is such a big thing. Because even
yes,
under the Women's Forum, we've launched, and it actually launched within the company. We
yeah,
call it unconscious bias training. And I'll be having a talk about that
yes.
soon.
Okay.
But so unconscious bias is just creating that awareness about unconscious bias. And even through the Women's Forum, I learned about sponsorship, right?
Yeah,
And not sponsorship in the way where we get sponsors for an event, right?
yeah.
It's having that person that
Yes,
knows
yeah,
about what you are doing, and
yes.
is able to be a voice for you in a room, once again, where you're not
When you're
necessarily
not there, yes, true.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go back to AI.
sure.
And the next, yes, I think we're going to definitely have a topic about this. We need to talk about that as its own
Absolutely.
podcast. Yes. And so the next question I have to ask you is about, like, there are so many things being spoken about AI, different myths being spoken about AI. So what do you have to say about it? Like, people would think, like the first one we addressed, where people think that AI will take their job. so many people have different scenarios about AI. So what do you think about those things that people are saying?
So I think the biggest myth to debunk, but
Yeah,
I get why people feel that way, is the
yeah,
thing that AI is going to take over the world,
yeah.
right? As
Yes,
much as it feels like it, because everything AI is incorporated into everything, I regularly say I think we are all AI'd out already because it's just
yeah,
AI everywhere. But
yes,
I don't believe AI will take over the world, because in
no,
the end, it is still just a tool. And no
yeah,
matter how cool or how advanced it gets, you will always need human intervention. You will
yeah,
always need someone to be able to set up the AI. Obviously, the concern would be, in whose hands do these
yeah,
powerful AI models sit? That is
yeah,
the real threat. But AI
yeah.
in itself will not take over the world, despite the fact of all the movies that we've seen, all the
Yes,
horror
I just
stories
wanted to
that
say
we've
that.
been told.
Yeah, I think there is a comment a lot of people make online. They'll be like, when I'm interacting with AI, I try and be very, very polite so that when AI takes over the world, it will not fight me.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And I think that's why AI ethics and AI for good, all
yeah,
those things are so important to ensure that we are building responsible AI models,
yes.
to ensure that things don't go horribly wrong.
Yeah. And also a lot of companies who are also working on this, like you mentioned something about what we need to be concerned about, are companies actually doing this. So companies, you need to hold yourself accountable and try to make sure that as you are building this technology, you are making sure that they are responsible for use. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the last question I have to ask you is that what is one thing that every business leader should know about AI before adopting it?
That is a very good question.
Yeah.
So, yes, so obviously a lot of the I call them the up top people, they
Okay.
they see AI, they hear the marketing rah rah, and they get very excited and they go,
Yes.
we need AI. But the
Yeah.
truth of the matter is, AI is not a magic solution, right?
Yeah. True.
So what is
Yes.
important for any business leader to know about AI is, before you choose to go down this path, you need clear objectives, because you need to
Yeah.
know what it is that you want to achieve with
Yes.
AI. You need good data, and we know a
Yeah.
lot of people's data is not great. So
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
ensure that your
True.
data is clean first. Um,
Yes.
and then obviously you should ensure that you've got the right. Obviously, for me, what's very important is having diverse teams working
Yeah.
on the AI models or your AI solution, so that you know you've covered all the kind of scenarios. I know
Yeah.
it seems impossible to cover all the kind of scenarios, but the more diverse your team, the better your
Yes.
models will be.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that's really important is, be sure that you upskill your people first, right?
Yeah.
Teach them about AI. And I think also give them the security that their jobs will not be replaced by putting this in
Yes.
place. You
Yeah.
need to
That's
give
very
them
important.
more motivation, instead
Yeah.
of making them feel insecure or feeling like this tool's going to be put in place, so you better check your
Yeah.
job.
Yes. Because when you are bringing in AI into the company, they feel like, okay, if I help with making this more smarter, it's definitely going to take my job.
Yes,
Yeah. So yeah. So
exactly,
you just have to
exactly,
address their concerns from the beginning. Yeah. Yes.
absolutely.
And sorry, you wanted to say something?
No,
Okay, so if with this we have touched a bit, if you want to learn more about data adoption, you can definitely check the previous podcast, which was Is Your Data Ready? You can check it on my YouTube channel. Yeah, and do you have any advice for us concerning Copilot Studio, concerning AI ethics adoption? Do you have any advice before we end the podcast?
so absolutely. So I would
Yeah,
encourage everyone to go and learn more about Copilot Studio. I mean, we've got Microsoft Learn, where you can go
yes,
and do some courses on there, and it's completely free. I mean, and if
yes,
you feel up to the challenge, take part in one of the challenges. Go and get your certification
yeah,
with regards to Copilot Studio. And then I would recommend that everybody go check out the AI for Good. that Microsoft has.
Okay. Yes.
Make yourself familiar with that. Go and read up about that. Read up on bias. For me, it was interesting learning about biases. So that's me. And I think the most important thing is have fun. Have fun with AI.
Definitely have fun.
Yes.
It's very, very important. Yes. Yeah, it's definitely anything you're doing, you need to, because when you get to a point that it becomes tiring, overwhelming, so just take it one step at a time and have fun with it. Yeah, very good advice. Yeah. Yes, so thank you so much everyone for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can, if you have any questions, I'm just going to pop the chat. You can reach out to Karika on LinkedIn so that you can ask her your questions concerning AI and Copilot Studio. If you want to learn Copilot Studio and you have questions, you can either reach out to her or you can reach out to me. I'm just going to, yes. So thank you so much, everyone, and see you in the next podcast. Bye.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Okay.